Hello, and welcome to Mormon Stories, Thrive Stories Edition. I am your host, Margi, and I am joined today by not just one co-host, but two. Count them, two. I've got John DeLynn in the house. Hey there.
Hey,
How you doing, babe?
two co-hosts is too many, or maybe one too many.
I don't know.
No?
I'm feeling like it's
You're
just
feeling
right
good?
today.
You're feeling good?
I
Well,
think so.
whatever you want, love.
And we have the fabulous Jenn as well.
Hello,
So excited.
everyone.
Jen got her hair did.
John. It does look gorgeous.
I did.
Well, we are really excited for today's podcast. And I just kind of want to jump right in. What I'll say, if you're new to Thrive Stories, go ahead and jump below to the box. You can read all about Thrive Stories and how they work below. If you have a submission, you can also see the link there. So we'll just dive right in because that's how excited we are to have Jessica Parker with us here today. Hey, Jessica.
Hi, Margi.
We are beyond thrilled.
I'm so excited. Can't wait. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So why don't we start maybe with a little bit of an introduction for people, just a real general sense for you, where you live right now, what you love, what your life looks like, anything you want to share that you think would be helpful before we kind of dive into a bit of your journey today.
Yeah, for sure. So my husband and I just moved to Oklahoma about 2.5 months ago. So I flew out here to celebrate my birthday, but obviously to be here because me and you have been in talks about it for about 4 months. So I live in Oklahoma. Very healing, very uplifting. Definitely something we needed to get out of Utah. Just it's me and my husband. Me and him have been married for 5.5 years. He is my soulmate, my best friend. And we are just healing and growing together, and just with this new life, new journey, new state, we're just processing and just growing and healing. So
That is beautiful. Beautiful to hear. So I wondered if we could start maybe in your childhood a little bit.
Yeah.
And just anything you wanted to share about the girl you remember, and where you were, and just whatever your childhood bubble included.
Yeah. So my family and I, like me and us kids, we grew up in Colorado and Montana. So my parents are from Ogden, Utah, but ever since we were little, we lived in Colorado, then moved to Montana later on. So we were fortunate enough to not have like a Mormon bubble, so to speak. My parents were they weren't erratic Mormons. They're very like, hey, yeah, we've got non-member friends. You can hang out with your non-member friends, sleepovers, go to other churches, whatever. Like they're still very strong in their testimonies. We were all very firm in our testimonies, but it was just people are people, and we love everyone no matter who they are or what religion they had. But I remember from the beginning, I always so badly wanted to be married and have kids. Like that was what I wanted from the beginning, so badly that it was like my dream was to have kids, be married and have kids. Like that's the goal that I wanted in my life.
When do you remember having those thoughts? Was it like as a girl playing dolls, or like when? I'm just curious when that naturally emerged.
You know what?
From you.
Actually, you saying that, I would play Barbies and like pretend the Barbies were pregnant. I'd stuff like the little dresses in their other dress and like pretend they're pregnant, and then they'd have their babies. So yeah, for sure, that's when it started.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is kind of from the very beginning as part of, your self-concept, identity, this being a piece.
Yeah.
Is that what you're kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. Like and I know growing up in primary and in young women, just you talk about getting married in the temple and having children and, doing all these wife duties. I just remember all those kinds of little aspects, little pieces of information. And that's what I desired. That's what I wanted, was to be that good Mormon mom and take care of my kids and take care of my husband.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm curious if we were to kind of put a little focus on you as a girl. What did you love, and what kind of child were you? Were you extroverted? What were some of your joys just as a girl growing up?
I love that question. I was very bubbly. I loved everyone, even just talking to my mom, because yesterday I celebrated my birthday and she's like, oh, I remember when you were a cute little girl. Everyone loved you. Everyone loved you. But I also was very self-conscious of myself. Like I always just had just anxieties about myself personally, of like who I was just as a girl, what I looked like, but I loved people. Just wanted to make sure that everyone was taken care of. Just kind of, just want to make sure everyone felt happy with where they were at.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, interesting that you would remember that so young. And if you were to look at, let's maybe start with your own mom, and in her role, do you feel like her role as mother, were there any type of messages or things that you noticed as she lived out this role as a mom?
Yes, and I don't think I realized it till after I got married. Like the type of messages she'd always um, have lunch ready for my dad for work and then have dinner ready when he came home, or have breakfast ready. And it wasn't until I got married I'm like, I'm so tired. I don't want to make dinner tonight. Like I thought that was my duty because it was like that underlying
Right.
message. So does that make sense?
It
Like,
does. So
yeah.
that modeling, what I'm hearing is kind of you had seen it modeled in this way.
Yeah, yeah, and like that's what wifely duties are. That's what women duties are, to make sure like all the housework is done, all the dinners, all the meals are prepared. She just kind of showed that by being the mom, and
Yeah.
then I just like, oh, I have to do that because now I'm a wife. Like I have to get the house clean, I have to do the dishes and dinner and stuff.
Right, right.
So
Kind of like you're on.
yeah,
You're on. Your
yeah.
turn.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. When it came to your mom in particular, did you notice any aspects? And I'm going to keep with the timeline. So maybe less now, but then just as you reflect, noticing, let's say, if she took time for herself, her sense of identity. Did you have this sense of like motherhood looked easy for her? Motherhood looked stressful for her. Motherhood took a lot of time, or these are just, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. These are just kind of options for, as a child, how you would experience, like for your mom and that modeling, what that experience felt like for her.
Yeah, I think she was tired. I think she was tired a lot. I think having, I say only 3 kids, but she had 3 kids, but that's still a lot. You have to make sure everyone's taken care of. You have to make sure that the kids are fed and ready for school, and take them, to school and come back. And I do remember her being tired, especially like in my elementary school age. But I do remember like she always showed up. Like she always had like our needs taken care of, like physical, emotional.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think to me, when I look back, it looked worn out, looked tired.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Any other messages? What I'm hearing from your childhood in particular is almost like this strong emerging sense of self around wanting to be a mom. Is that right?
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
feeling probably some cultural religious support around that. Is that
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's showing up as you remember in yourself kind of
Yes.
first.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Beautiful. Any other messages or, you know, things that come out of your childhood that you think are relevant to your journey or that have impressed you?
Not as a child, not
Okay.
like in the childhood era. I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we were going to move into teens now,
Mm-hmm.
like your teenage years, so this now would include dating,
Mm-hmm.
young women's, um, what kind of take me through kind of messaging then and your relationship maybe with your family and church
Yeah.
during those
So
years.
the message that I grew up with, that in the teen years, I so badly wanted to date. I so badly wanted to have a relationship. And because my goal was to get married. And I craved that, even though, of course, I wouldn't get married at 15, 16. But it's like, I wanted that so bad. And so that's basically the messaging that I looked out for. Oh, I just want a boyfriend. I just want a boyfriend. And sorry, what was the second part of that question? Like the relationship with my family and the church, right?
Yeah. You can talk about like if you really enjoyed going to church, if you really loved young women's, like at this stage in the game,
Yeah.
what your relationship was
Okay.
to.
Yeah. So in Colorado, I loved Young Women's. There was a big group of us Young Women's. Church was everything to me. I loved it. In high school, I was making some choices that didn't collide with the church standards, but I just take that as we're in high school, we're just teenagers. But we moved to Montana when I was 15, and it was a smaller population in the ward that I was in. And I was the only young woman Laurel there. And this young women's president, she really attached to me in a good way and just made me feel welcome and gave me leadership and taking charge of the young women. And that helped me maintain being active because I felt very alone. 15, moving to Montana, you feel kind of, I didn't have a lot of friends. But she helped me grow and develop. And I loved going to church. I had the biggest testimony. My parents, my dad was prominent in the church in Billings, Montana, and it was a good, happy environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just want to say that the more and more people I interview who say, I wasn't always doing what I should be doing as a Mormon teenager, I think that's called being a Mormon teenager.
Exactly.
I don't, very few people that I interview, less than half of the people I interview were like, I never did anything wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
just
do.
have to say that.
Yeah, it's true.
The only other thing I'll say is that we interviewed last night Elisa Wall, who is the woman who brought Warren Jeffs down. And it turned out when you guys see the episode, it's bananas what her life was like living in the FLDS church. But I didn't know this about her, but she had she was positive negative blood type, and her husband was positive. So she had 4 miscarriages and a stillborn birth, something like that. And the whole time she was conceptualizing that as her unrighteousness. And I just wanted to kind of seed that, because if you couple normal teenage developmental behavior, which is not always doing what the church says, plus fertility issues, you get some guilt and shame that I'm curious to see whether that becomes part of your story.
Oh, just you wait, John Dylan.
Just you wait. Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean by if we kind of delve into your church experience, and I'm hearing a lot of joy, and a lot of positive experiences right now. But if there are certain beliefs that are emerging out of this time like that, like if I'm obedient, if I do this, I should have this. If I, and even looking at the young women theme, or, being part of young women's for years and teaching in young women's some of the lessons. If you were to kind of look back to that time and look at some of your beliefs about yourself that were seated then.
Yeah.
That maybe hit you on the other side.
Yeah.
In a minute. Do you remember?
Yeah. And it's, as I was reflecting, when you told me to reflect on these stories, it gets super boring into my mission. And then I'm like, okay, let me tell you all this. So but in the teen years, because I remember, just these lessons of, marry, turn missionary, get married in the temple, do all these right things. They prepare you. They have your whole life laid out for you. And I do remember that this is the life that you are to have if you're a righteous daughter of God. And that's the life that I thought that I would get. I'm like, I'm going to have this because I'm being obedient. I didn't have the thought of, if I do this, then I'll do this, not until I was a missionary, and that, that controlled my whole life even now. But that it was oh, this will happen because I'm doing good, because I'm being kind to the My Maids and Beehive young women, because I'm trying the best that I can. And I would like to say moving to Montana was also a very dark space for me also. I was still making, wrong choices until I decided to go back to the Mormon ways. But so there was joy, but there was also darkness also. But I felt more blessed when I wasn't doing what the church taught me or what my parents taught me. I felt closer to God when I stopped doing all the things that I was doing in Colorado and the beginning of my years in Montana. But I just was like, oh, we're good because I'm doing the right things. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just so tired of the shame spiral that we put people on.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of it. And by the way, I was able to pretty much live the standards, but it doesn't matter. I'm just sick of how many people were tormented by that. So I'm going to say that, just even though it's slightly off topic, or maybe it's not.
The narrative from the stories that I listen to on here is very much the shame and like the stress. Like, yeah, that's a common narrative that is just it stinks to hear, because like I felt it and I'm trying to get away from it. And the fact that there's so many men and women and everyone that just feels shame. Yeah, I get it, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for you at this time, just to clarify, your relationship with shame is it like a seed of shame? Are you having full blown, like it's partnering your joy right now? That shame piece is equal to, like, where is your shame? Is it kind of underneath and brewing?
Yes,
So low?
absolutely.
Okay.
Just like, it's just a little, just a little
Simmering?
moment. Yeah. Like everything's okay for right now, but I became more conscious. I became more aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wondered if I could ask you a question around body in teens. And I'm going to do this because of the subject, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
and how the subject can influence how we view our bodies. And I know that's later on. But at this point, as a teen, and with how you've been taught to value and see yourself, right? How would you talk about your own relationship with your body and your sense of value overall?
It's going to sound really harsh what I'm about to say, but no value. Hate my body. Like even still, no value, Sorry, it's embarrassing. And it started like when I was in 5th grade, just like the hating of myself. And hating that I don't look a certain way, So that was hard, but it wasn't more prominent until like later on in my life. But the self-worth went down a lot when I was probably like 11, 12. So
In talking about that, thank you for sharing that. In talking about that, would you say that was something that was a seed simmering, or that was something you walked with that actually was like fully on during those years? And let's just say those kind of teen years.
I think in between simmering, in between fully on.
So it would kind of.
Yeah. And I do want to clarify, my parents did not say anything about me. I think it's just how we grow up as women. You have to look a certain way in order to be happy. And I just never did. And I think because I didn't look that way, like, how could I ever be happy? So,
Can I ask you
yeah,
what that was for you? What message you received about what you should look like to be happy?
Oh yeah, like a size 0, size 2, like Jennifer Aniston movie star. Like if you look that way, you'll have all your dreams come true. And I know that's not even real as a 33-year-old, but it's like something that I'm like, oh, I wish I looked this way so I could be happy. Because even though I don't have kids, it's like, but I have an incredible husband. It's like, I'll be happy because I'm a size 2.
Yeah.
Like that's the messaging I have given myself for years and years and years.
Yeah.
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 And that's heavy. And because a lot of women feel that way, and it's heavy. Even women who look the part, they still feel that way, but probably something else. And it's just, I just want us all to love ourselves, because that's where I feel like the power begins.
Yes. 100%.
Can I ask you women a question? Because
Yeah.
I never attended Young Women's or Relief Society. What messages did the church proactively or subconsciously send, or I should say the church and or the church membership, around body image? Was it, did you get messages like you're beautiful no matter what, all bodies are beautiful, all shapes are beautiful? Were the lessons silent on that? Or was it like, hey, you need to work out and look good for your future companion? Like where, and yeah, I'd love all three of you to share if you're comfortable, because maybe you had different experiences, and maybe Jessica first.
Yeah. I think Colorado and Montana, it was either silent or it was you're beautiful, but I feel more silent. Like we didn't talk about that. It was more like your relationship with God or Jesus or how to be whatever. Check all the boxes. But I feel like when I moved to Utah, even though I wasn't young women's, I felt like there was an underlying like loud narrative that's not spoken about, that you need to look a certain way to fit in here.
Look what way?
Like skinny, put together, I don't want to like labelize women who do have this, but like, the eyelash extensions, the extensions in the hair, like let's put our best self 100% all the time because we've got it made. We've got it. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm curious.
It's like perfectionism, but turned on to your looks, onto your physical appearance. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, so I grew up back east, and so I think what's hard is there's a cultural layer. This isn't only a religious layer. We've got a cultural layer that's quite fat phobic. So I think that layer can't be ignored. But if we're just speaking young women's, and is that what you're asking in particular, kind of young women's?
Or Relief Society, both.
Or Relief Society? Yeah, I think there were overt messages for me in lessons in both. And
saying what?
Saying on some level, I remember a lesson I was taught in Florida in Young Women's where the leader was talking about how she had 4 young children and her day, and her husband was coming home and she was getting dinner ready, and she realized he was going to be there, and she hadn't done her hair and her makeup. So she stopped cooking dinner to go and put on her makeup and quickly do her hair because she owed it to him after a day of work too. And I remember always, so there's this idea of like, your partner is deserving of this sort of like a performance, a certain sense of like how you show up. You exist for others. You exist for the pleasure of others. I think so. We always taught in Young Women's kind of physical exercise and health. That was always kind of part of it. And I feel like there was always an inherent, and this would be covert, but a bit of a character judgment around those who aren't, showing up in the most, let's just say, preferred way culturally. There was like a lot of judgment around that. And it was assigned to sort of character, like laziness or you don't. And I remember feeling that and feeling, really disturbed by it at the time. So, yeah. I mean, other things which I think are both culture and religion. I had an eating disorder in high school, and I remember being so positively reinforced at church. It was just through the roof, people that would notice as I got sicker, being positively reinforced for withering away, basically. So, yeah, I think the big takeaway for me, and then I'll move on, is just when you're given so little a space. I know I said this a bit in my interview, but when you're given so small a space of value, then you tend to maximize and be excellent and perfect the things that you've been given, not knowing you can seek more, not knowing that your value can be bigger. It makes you obsess over and get in a realm of thinking that actually it eats you alive. So instead of getting this sense of like, wow, as I do it, I feel freer. As you do it, you become more enslaved to the narratives that have put you there in the first place. And that's why it's so insidious.
Yeah. Agree, Margi. So I was trying to think of some ways that was kind of told to me during my young woman years. The first one I can think of is, and I grew up in the heart of Salt Lake County in Sandy. And
Sandy's kind of intense, right?
yeah.
For appearance wise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. So the first thing I could think of was the narrative of covering up my body. So it was my job to cover up my body so that men would not have to look at me and pick apart my body. Because if I was wearing something that, you know, craziness, right, showed this part of my arm, like they would be like all craziness and it would be my fault. So there's that first narrative of like covering your body that was told to me. And the narrative that it's because if the men look at you, you know, their minds would start to wander. And so it's you already know that the men are looking at you and they're picking you apart. And so there's that going on
true.
in your mind. And then in Young Women's, I remember activities where they would bring a makeup person in, and we would all have our own makeup palette, and we would learn how to do makeup. And then we would have, you know, they'd bring a trunk full of clothes, and we would all put them on and find something modest. And then we would do a runway walk. And, you know, and then we would do, we would have like someone come in and show us modest haircuts and like how to curl those modest haircuts and like, you know, talking about like not making your hair a different color than its natural color but highlights are okay. And then there's also, being older and having teenage daughters. I see this still going on with them where all of my daughters, by the world standards, are fit and, you know, skinnier on the skinnier side. And even though they're all that way and gorgeous, I still had people coming up to them in church and they would pick out the daughter that was the skinniest out of the four, and they would give her a compliment about how skinny she was in front of her other sisters and then skip over the other girls. Or they would compliment two of them and then skip over the two that were not as skinny. And I didn't understand the impact of that until recently, years later, one of my daughters coming to me and telling her how hard that was. And especially when it was family who did that sometimes. So just, and that's like a worldview along with maybe, you know, I think more worldview than religious view in that sense, in that particular instance. But there's that, you know, just people reinforcing that to the young women. And then to bring some funny into it, like there's a TikToker Tomster. I think his name's Tomster.
Yes, I love him.
Okay.
I love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tomster, he does this. He's like hilarious. He has he pretends like he's like the angel at the gate of heaven, and he has like his clipboard, you know, and all the, I guess, Mormon people are standing up, you know, to get into heaven, and he's like has his clipboard, and he's like did you show your shoulders? No? Oh, okay. You can go in. Yeah. No. Did you have or no, what is it?
Like, did you get?
Oh no! Did you show? Yeah, did you show your shoulders? No, you can't go into heaven. You other line, go over there. You can't go to heaven. And then the next person comes up and he's like, oh, you had a boob job, you had lip filler, you drank Diet Coke every day. Yeah, sure, go in heaven. Go right that way. Go right in heaven. But the girl who showed her shoulders can't. She has to go over there. So I don't know. If you look him up on TikTok, he's funny. We'll
add him to the show notes.
Okay, yeah, cool. But anyways, it's just the narrative that we hear all the time. But those are just some things that I could think of within my own kind of
Thank you.
upbringing.
I just have to say, in all my years in young men's and in all my years as an adult, They never had the young men or the men review clothing to wear in a meeting or in, a classroom setting or in an activity. And we never did a runway walk where we dressed up and walked down the runway. In fact, we were never given any instruction at all about modesty. There was never like, don't wear shorts that are too short. Don't wear tank tops. Never.
That is so frustrating. That's just frustrating.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But I can actually say it here right now because I know the viewers think that. But just you saying that, Jenn and Margi, like what the memories that you brought, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We did have a lesson on that, or we did do activities like that. Just like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just talk about what we're supposed to wear and look like. But men, just go ahead. You're fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think part of that dynamic where it's especially destructive is to what extent we were focusing on that as opposed to all the many other things we could have been focusing on for our own kind of self-development and identity formation.
As a man who's trying to listen and learn, I think it's profound what you said, what you've all said, that when women are given such a small territory to exist in, it's not like expand your intellect and be the best scientist you can ever be. It's not become a great writer, pursue a great career, develop your talents. It's literally just, get ready to be a mommy.
Yeah.
And be super cute so that the boy will want you. What else are you going to focus on?
Yeah.
And then you're going to compare yourself to other people, and then different body sizes just are distributed. And that's just going to set a bunch of people up for pain.
Well, and
because women are underdeveloped in Mormonism, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And even like when John's saying you have to look super cute for the boy, like my first boyfriend, my only boyfriend was my husband at the age of 27. So like the deep roots of why I like crying stuff, because it's like, oh, no boys wanted me because I didn't look attractive enough. And looking back, it's quality or quantity, not quality for sure. Like it's fine, but it's just you think, oh, you don't look good enough. That's why boys don't ask you out, or that's why you're not married at 18 or 19. You have that in your mind.
That narrative, it becomes the story.
Yeah, it's the story. Like, oh, I was before the age changed, 21 when I got on a mission. Oh, well, no boys wanted me. I guess I'll go. That's not how it went in my story, in my head. But externally, the narrative, people could look that. Oh, she hasn't found her companion. That's probably why she's going.
Right.
So.
Right. So true. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. As you kind of, what I'm hearing through your teen years is kind of then some positive experiences.
Yeah.
Some kind of low grade simmering shame over developmentally completely appropriate exploration, right? That's going on simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then your relationship to your body being kind of an ongoing up and down kind of journey. Is that right?
Yes.
Where at intermittent times, probably sometimes of kind of self shame or hatred, and then kind of moving in and out of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You got it, Margi.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to know whether this body image stuff plays into the infertility thing or if it's totally unrelated.
I think it's kind of both, like talking it well, like, yeah.
We're going to bring it around.
We got this, John.
We're going to bring it right on around. There's a reason why I brought it up. Okay. So moving into then kind of young adulthood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catch us up to speed, kind of graduation from high school, some of what you decided and how it affected you. Because I think you've talked now a little bit about maybe going on a mission.
Yeah.
Where did you go? Did you leave home? What was your journey from there?
Yeah, it's a wild ride.
Okay.
So, went to school for a year, to a small town college in Wyoming, decided I want to go on a mission, felt like I should, went home, did all the papers, got called to the Alaska Anchorage mission, and went there. 3 weeks into my mission, broke my ankle. I slipped on ice, broke my ankle. 6 weeks later, I slipped on ice and re-broke it. Had to go home, get surgery, go back out. But that's where the narrative of like and we'll talk about this in the future, like the obsessiveness of God has a plan. Like, so with the infertility, God has a plan. That's where it went. Like when I broke my ankle, went home, came back, I did see a lot of cool things happen. So I'm like, oh, I'm associating that as God wanted that to happen so that I could stay out longer. Because I was supposed to go home in April 2012. I went home July 2012. Like just all these coincidences. That's where the narrative started. And then being a missionary, all these missionaries have heard obedience brings blessings, but pure or strict obedience brings miracles. So it was the obsessiveness of I have got to be strictly obedient, even though I'm a very spirit of the law kind of person. I always have been, but I had to be exactly obedient in order to get investigators. And it never worked for me because I didn't see these people who were members or non-members or less actives as numbers. I saw them as human beings.
Mhm.
And I think that's why my numbers were always low on the mission. And because I cared about the people. I didn't care if they're active or not. Like that was my goal, to have them become to Christ, right? As a missionary. Also, it's okay if you're not. Thanks for letting me into your house. Appreciate it. But the obsessiveness of I have to do it right. If I
Got
didn't
it.
get up at 6:31, I mean, if I didn't get up at 6:30 and maybe I slept in a minute late, God's not going to bless me today because I slept in at 6:31. Like he is not going to bless us with an investigator. Like if we stayed at a less active member's house an hour and a half instead of an hour, well, now our whole rest of our afternoon is ruined because he's not going to bless us because we weren't exactly obedient. And then I'd like spend 15 minutes in the car praying in my head, please forgive me, please forgive me, please forgive me. So it's, yeah, that's how it all kind of started, I feel like.
Okay. So it feels like to me then your mission kind of gave you an update to your system.
For sure.
And that update was really around obsessive obedience and kind of almost like a transactional style
Yes.
of, is that right? Like I do
Yes.
this and then I get this.
That's how
If
I
don't
lived
do
my
this,
whole life.
then I get this.
Yeah, like my whole adult life from 21 on, it was if I do this, then I'll be blessed. If I don't, he'll somehow withhold some kind of blessings from me.
Okay.
But also, I feel like we're all taught that in a sense of how many general conference talks have you heard? The amount of blessings you'll get in heaven is insane if you keep doing these things, right? So it's like, okay,
yes.
I have to do it right so that God will bless me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm really curious then because I feel like this pattern oftentimes leads to a belief. And the belief is because, so on your mission, you're trying to obsessively be obedient, but then you may not have baptisms that day. So inevitably what happens is you're to blame.
Yeah.
So you start, it can't be that actually what you've been taught is wrong or, this framework is wrong. You're wrong. Did that start taking seed in you?
For sure. Absolutely. And the guilt is really strong because I didn't understand why my numbers, I didn't understand why we were focusing on numbers to begin with when there's all souls. But my numbers were low, even though I was trying the best I could. And the guilt and the stress came more when I trained my greenie, like my new companion who just came out on the mission field. That became more because I was responsible for her and I was responsible of trying to show her there's, the work. And if the numbers were low, she's going to question and be stressed out. And like I was taking on everyone's emotions because it's all me. It's all my fault. If the areas we were in weren't good. And to top that off, like every single area I've been in, except one, were what's called whitewashed, which means they pulled the missionaries out, like old companions, or if there's been a continuous companionship, they pulled them all out and brought a fresh new pair in. And like the majority of the areas I were in, like they haven't had sisters in years. So I got to be like the new sister missionary they had in 7, 8, 10 years. So I'm sure they're thinking, okay, because we've got sisters, there'll be numbers, there'll be baptisms. And there wasn't. And so I even had a zone leader call me and be like, hey, what's going on, Sister Williams? Like,
Wow.
And I got really defensive because I'm like, I'm doing the best I can. So, but yeah, it's stressful.
That's so much pressure.
Yeah.
That's
For-
so much pressure.
Yeah, us young kids, we're
So
just
was
barely
there,
adults.
would you describe your relationship with that reality that you took the hit, or was part of you kind of like, no, the numbers thing, like, why are we doing a numbers thing? Like, was part of you like perceiving an issue with what was being asked of you? Or were you full throttle saying, I must not be doing enough. I must not be showing, was it a mixture? Or
Mixture.
did you,
And in my mind, I'm like, okay, like I know that I'm loving people. So God sees that. He'll make it right eventually. Maybe not me as a missionary, but maybe the next missionary. Maybe I'm just the seed planter missionary. Like I would justify these things in my head. Okay, I'm just getting these people right for the next people. And I had my mission president, he was like, hey, Jessica, it's okay. Like the numbers are just things we have to do, but you don't have to worry about it. But still I did, because the end of the night, you go through your numbers to see how successful you were, and then you report it to your district leader or zone leader.
Yeah.
So it was a mixture, but I think I helped cope by telling myself, God knows, it's okay. God knows. And then it helped also. My mission president was like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
you're doing the best you can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Your mission experience, it feels like in the context of where we're going to go is kind of, it feels really relevant because it's kind
Yeah.
of your first experience. It sounds like.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Where you were like, you can show up and be doing the work and have the best of intentions. And, it's
Nothing happens.
That's right. You don't get the desired outcome.
Mm-hmm.
That feels
That's so funny.
powerful.
Yes. That's exactly totally foreshadowing to what we'll talk about in the future.
Yeah.
Funny.
I've had probably one or two Mormon apostles tell me that no mission president should ever give a missionary a goal that's based on another person's free agency. In other words, why would you have a goal for baptism if it's dependent on another person deciding for themselves whether or not they want to do it? That's not a good foundation for a metric or a goal. And it's just so frustrating that Mormon somehow apostles know that, but they don't get that, or there's mixed messages because mission presidents clearly forget that or don't know it.
Yeah, that's not the narrative they teach you on the mission. So that's kind of funny. That's
And I think that's so there is something that feels really Mormon about the performance aspect, right? What it looks like. The goal oriented kind of, that just feels such a Mormon kind of thing. The evaluation, the constant evaluation of like, how are you doing? And how we've learned to sort of take those cues, whether it's sitting down in a sacrament meeting and what that looks like what success looks like in sacrament meeting, right? Versus on a mission where it's like numbers. So sometimes I think when the culture is so, I don't know, doused with this performative aspect of like what it looks like, as opposed to like internal, what we want it to feel like, right?
Yes.
This sort of intrinsic, kind of more of an internal relationship. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Anything else you kind of want to bring up around with your mission that you feel like is important to where we're headed in the story?
No, I feel like I said, all the things I thought were good.
Okay.
Important.
Okay. So now coming off your mission, what greeted you there? And just kind of take us through maybe.
Yeah, so it's funny how we talked about the body image and the stress, because it kind of comes back. So I always have had self-esteem issues. Always. They have thrived in me forever. And I was so happy on my mission because I didn't have to worry about that. Like I didn't have to worry about finding a husband or dating. I was like all about the people. And so I was really stressed coming home because now I have to worry about myself. And that they give you an exit interview, the mission president does before you leave. He talks about finding your eternal companion, and it stressed me out because I'm like, well, I know guys don't like me, guys don't ask me out. It's probably not going to happen. And so coming home, I was really stressed out. I had a hard time, like the first 6 to 9 months I was home, because I had to worry about myself and had to adjust to myself and thinking about myself that I didn't do in a long time. So that was really hard. And I eventually got out of that hole and was like, okay, we're going to do this. I had a good group of friends. I moved to Utah, went to Weber State University in Ogden, and just, had my friends and kind of had that fun Mormon college experience where you're always hanging out with your group of friends. But obviously the constant continuous thought of wanting a husband was like in my brain always.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's so interesting that your mission provided, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
This reprieve from that whole realm, that whole sort of next part of the narrative that we are handed
Mm-hmm.
as like the play out, the formula.
Yeah. Because even though I didn't have full peace in my mind in the mission, because I was stressed out about doing the right
different
thing,
things.
it was still peace about myself. And then I'm like, okay,
And
I
that
have to worry
comes
about
back.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So beautiful. So then do you want to take us up to, so you graduate? Do you graduate from?
No.
Oh, perfect.
I didn't.
So bring us through.
Didn't go back.
So bring us through.
Wait, a Mormon woman doesn't end up graduating from college? I didn't know that
Shocking.
happened.
It's amazing. It's so sorry.
And I'm not shaming Mormon women.
What does that
by the way.
mean over there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been studying my own ancestry, and my grandmother, who's passed away, but she wanted to get her degree, I think because she was the daughter of a polygamous marriage where all 4 of the women had horrible lives basically, but she was really committed to going to college. And her dad taught her that a woman only needs no more than 2 years of college. And she fought him and got her degree anyway. And she was one of the first graduates of what became Utah State University. And then my mom and my sisters all ended up getting married without college degrees. And that was what was taught to my mom. So she never got her degree. And then my sisters, got married without getting their degrees.
Yeah.
And it's just one of my, it's just one of
No,
my
I
pet
got the
peeves.
joke. I got
It's
you.
one of my pet peeves.
I just wanted to let you explain it because I do think, there is sort of sometimes something that happens where when you communicate beliefs around women, that they're not capable, that their role is a given thing, that then when they don't value themselves or when they do what you ask and they meet someone sophomore year and get married, it can kick them on the other side eventually. And then it becomes like, oh, you didn't finish. You know what I mean?
Yes.
A little bit. And it's placed on the woman instead of on the system. Actually, the system is what created that so just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, so you had some fun, it sounds like, at Weber State.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're, as you say, kind of self-esteem. And when you say self-esteem, do you want to explain kind of your areas? Is it mostly like body stuff, or is it a whole slew, like for you in this frame of life?
Yes. And so when I mean self-esteem, I mean body image, just not comfortable with myself. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I'm the problem with everything, like, is because of my body. So yeah, but that's a good idea to clarify, because that in my brain, it's body.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you leave Weber State.
Yeah.
And at some point, don't go back, and then take us from there.
Yeah. So I just wanted a year break, and I moved to Provo with my best friend. And then 9 months later, I found my husband. His sister set us up. And then we just started beginning this beautiful relationship. And we're just like the cliche people, but I was 27. I knew what I wanted. So like 3 weeks into dating, he tells me he loves me. Like 3 months later, we're engaged. 3 months later, we're married. Like, so cliche. We know, we get it. But he was and is the most perfect human being on the planet. And I love him. So, yeah.
How brilliant is that?
It's the best.
And
he's
you're
my
27.
soulmate. Yeah, I know.
Brilliant.
Isn't that? And I just want to focus really quick on that. I thank you for celebrating that, because people think, including me at that age, there's something wrong with me. I served a mission. I did all these right things. So like that same narrative of what am I doing wrong to not get a husband? What am I doing that I'm not being blessed for? Because I was 22, 23 when I came home. So those 3, 4, 5 years of internally, why doesn't anyone want to ask me out? Why I want this eternal family. I want to have an eternal family. I'm doing the right things. Why am I not getting blessed with a husband? And obviously, hindsight, I look back, 27 was a perfect age. Like, there was nothing wrong with getting married in your late 20s or 30s or whenever.
Yeah.
Like, it happens when it happens. And there should be no timeline or no pressure
Right.
to get married.
That's right. There
And it's
doesn't need to be
unfortunate.
some inherent message.
No, and it's strong. And I think a lot of women or girls get married so young because it's what you're taught. And I probably, if I didn't get opportunities to go on dates, I probably would have been one of them. Like,
Mhm.
well, it's what I'm supposed to do. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
instead of looking back and being like, oh, this is what I want in a partner.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah. Beautiful. And if you were to kind of at this point say in your 27-year-old brain what you were looking for in a partner, what would you say?
it's so funny. A good priesthood holder, someone who, when I said out loud, it sounds so silly, like doesn't watch rated R movies, like has a good moral compass, respects his priesthood, respects his calling, just will take care of me, will take me to the celestial kingdom, but also will love me no matter what I look like, no matter who I am, appreciates me. But it was more the spiritual aspects because I'm like, I can get over anything else, but I need a spiritual leader with me. Not that I felt like I needed a leader, but it's a partner, a spiritual partner. Because I always thought that, yeah, I'm equal to men in the church,
Yeah.
even though looking back, no. But I'm like, I don't need someone to lead me to the celestial kingdom. I want someone to hold my hand and we do it together.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, I feel like we're maybe starting at the part where we're running into the journey of infertility. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, how did this road kind of begin
Yeah.
for you?
So, I mean, in like our engagement plans, you know, preparing for our future, we always talked about, we'll just wait a couple years. It doesn't matter that I'm 27. Like my parents had no problem getting pregnant. His parents had no problem getting pregnant. So we'll just wait a couple years, just get to know each other, get to know ourselves, and then we'll talk about starting a family. And then 9 months into marriage, we just felt really strongly like we should start trying. We went to the temple about it. We felt really good about it. And I was really scared because I wasn't ready. But I'm like, but God knows. So I'll just put my trust in that.
Mhm.
So after like 3 or 4 months of being scared and thinking I was pregnant, like I started to get used to the idea of, okay, like I could have a kid. Like we've been married for over a year now. It'll be okay. And then month after month of, okay, let's just figure this out. And I think like after 6 months into trying, I started to buy ovulation test kits. And that's where you pee on a stick and it tells you if you're ovulating or not. And I started to do that every day. And we, would try. And then after 8 months of trying, I got pregnant. And it turned into an ectopic pregnancy, which was also very traumatic and hard. But I'm like, okay, so taking the trauma aside, I can get pregnant. Everything is okay. And we just weren't able to get pregnant ever since. So,
yeah. And would you say remind me your husband's name?
Brendan.
Okay. So with you and Brendan in your marriage, was that something that you would say was a key dream, a key part of what you wanted together? Or was that more of what you wanted? Like, how would you talk about the value of having children for both of you at this point?
Yeah. I think the point when I started to take the ovulation test kits, I think we were like, we want this. Like, why is this not happening? Like, we both want to start a family together. We both want to experience the joy and experience what Heavenly Father has promised us. And yeah, I think we were both all in for it. And when we found out we were pregnant, we were excited. We were just like, okay, we did it. Like, we made it. Like, we're righteous. And that sounds silly, but we thought, like, we did it. We're good. Everything's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So take us kind of along that journey, and then are you changing amidst that journey
Yeah.
as you're kind of getting new information and feeling like, okay, what we're doing isn't working? Did you double down on the religious stuff? Like, what type of patterns emerged during this time, and what were you guys feeling emotionally?
So yes, it was. So after I had my ectopic pregnancy, it was probably one of the hardest things I have ever been through. And same with my husband, and watching him process it. And there's nothing that he could do because I was the one in pain, and it was a very scary situation. We like took a mental and like 3-4 month break because we're like, we can't do this. But yet we still felt, because this is our next step. We need to try to have a kid. Like, this is our next step in life. Let's just keep going. And even though we were processing the trauma of what happened with our ectopic, and like both of us crying and questioning, what did we do wrong? Like, what is it that we could have done? And like me blaming myself, like that it was my fault, even though I know it's not. Like, you just kind of shove it down and you're just like, it's okay. Let's just keep going. And every day for years, like, I'd pee on a stick to see if I'm ovulating, and it's just mentally exhausting. And then you have to force yourself to have sex sometimes when you don't want to. You're tired. He's tired.
Yeah.
Like, you had a long day at work, but you're like, come on, we have to. And it happened every single day. And I can look back and be like, yeah, we made through that. But the turmoil of, we will get pregnant. This will happen. This will happen. This month it will happen. This month it will happen. It has got to happen. And then this obsessiveness of, I listened to General Conference talks while I was getting ready. Like, God will bless me. Heavenly Father, don't you see how well I'm trying? Don't you see? And then it would come to like, okay, maybe I'm not good enough to be a mom, but my husband's good enough to be a dad. So give him a kid. I'll just be the vessel. Give him the kid, and I'm healing as I'm saying it out loud. And I'll just like be the standby. Like, if you don't love me, if you don't want me to have a child, he'll be a really good dad. Just let me get pregnant and I'll have him take care of it. Like, I would just bargain with God. And it just became exhausting. And I guess you could say I did double down in reading my scriptures and saying my prayers and listening to the Spirit, because I'm like, okay, if I listen to the Spirit, Heavenly Father will see how good I am at listening, and then he'll bless me this month. Or if he sees me being kind to this person that drives me crazy, he'll bless me like with a kid. It will happen this month. And you just bargain with yourself. And then when I wouldn't get pregnant, I just, I'm mean to myself in my brain. Like, what is the word? Like, self-destruct? I don't know. But I would be so mean to myself and question why, like, what was I doing wrong? And that would happen. And it's just a continuous cycle, month after month after month, of trying my best, trying to do all the right things, and then trying to get pregnant and nothing is happening. And you get blessings. You'll get pregnant. You'll have kids. It'll be fine. You have people coming to you like, we're praying for you. Everything's okay. But after years of trying by yourselves, we felt like it was time to get help and see a fertility specialist. And what they found out is that my husband is good. He's got solid swimmers, so that's good. But I have a small tumor in my pituitary gland, and that affects your hormones. And my fertility doctor was like, hey, it's okay. It's not going to grow. You'll just need this medication and your hormones will be better and we'll get you pregnant. No problem. And we're like, okay, like, let's do this. So I started IUI, and that's intrauterine insemination, which basically is like they take my husband's sperm and inseminate in me, but it's more of a longer process than that. Like, I had to take medication, then I had to get shots, and then they inseminate me, and then I had to take more more hormone medication. Like, it was very hard emotionally because my hormones are all over the place. My poor husband is like dealing with this poor woman, and like, we just thought for sure the first month, like, this is going to happen. We figured out all the problems. We know the answers. This is what's going to happen.
The answer.
This is the answer. We have it made. Like, we're good spiritually, everything. And the first try, no. And then you cry and you're upset and you think, what did I do wrong? And you're not allowed to question God why, because you're taught in your life, at least I was, don't ask God why, ask what you can learn from this. So I never asked him why. I just said, what can I learn from this? Even though I wanted to say this is the biggest bull crap ever. And then like the second try, we'd wait, we'd do it again next month. And then when that failed, my husband I remember him falling to the floor in a ball, crying, asking, was my faith not strong enough? And it's just like, when you see your husband that broken, it just kills you, because it's like you think it's your fault. Because I'm trying to do everything. Like, I'm trying to spiritually be okay. I'm trying to physically be okay. I'm trying to eat the right foods to get pregnant. I'm trying to work out so that I can get pregnant, or work out less. Like, there's do's and don'ts for everything. And you just question even though you can't, and you just bury it in your deep down in your soul and be like, okay, let's just keep going. So, and then the third, then we tried one more time, and I was done. I was over it. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I
am so sorry. What do you all?
I want to get Jenn in here, because I know she has some thoughts about this, but I'll give her time to collect her thoughts, and I'll just say a couple quick things. I identify a few problems here. I was telling you all before the show started that I had a professor at BYU. His name is Clayton White, and he's an ornithologist, but we were in an honors colloquium class my sophomore year, and he basically said to all of us, we're sophomores, freshmen at BYU, what are you all going to do when you can't have kids and you try? And I'll never forget that. I was just like blown away.
You were like, is that a thing?
Like, what? Like, why are we talking about this? And he gave us some crazy statistic that like 1 in 12 or 1 in 15 people are infertile. And I think he felt passionately about it because I think he had his daughter who was not able to have a kid. And I've thought about how healthy that was, because as you study mental health, one of the keys to mental health is acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the keys to acceptance is kind of knowing how the world is. But if you're not sort of set with the expectation,
with information.
Yeah, with the information. Like, yeah, just so you know, 1 out of whatever of you, 1 out of 20 of you, maybe someone can look up in the,
and it's
maybe
stats, 1 in 8. Actually,
yes.
Oh, 1 in 8.
1 in 8,
Okay.
and then 1 in 4 women will lose they won't carry the baby full term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 1 in 8. So like, if you're not given that information, if you're in an organization and a culture that, number one, doesn't really value evidence or science, number one, and then number two, when you're told that your only purpose, like, you go to the temple, what does it say to Adam and Eve? What's their job?
Multiply and replenish the earth.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's our job.
That's
And
your
when
job.
and when you go to the temple, you are Adam and Eve, right? When you take out your endowments. So like, that's your purpose. So like, such a heavy focus on that, as if that is the only reason you really are alive. If you have to pick one reason why you're alive, it's probably to have kids. I mean, the church might say to get your ordinances or to be tested, but I mean, you go one level deeper. It's have kids, get married and have kids, temple marriage, have kids, family, So we're set up to fail. And then you add to that the magical thinking, which is just this idea that somehow things in the natural world are impacted by our behavior. And I touched on this when I talked about Elisa Wall, and how she was unable to have kids, and it was her blood type, but because she is in the FLDS church, she's thinking that it's because she's not liking that Warren married her at age 14, and it must be her. And that's an extreme example, but your example of just you're constantly starting from your teenage years, you're unworthy, your body's not right, you can't get the baptisms you want, you're just and your husband too. And then all of a sudden this totally biological thing happens that's actually very normal. I mean, it's not the majority experience, but it's a super normal experience. 1 out of 8,
Yes.
super
Very
common.
We all know people.
Yeah, so many people.
And then in your mind, you're like, oh, it must be me. I got to be in. Your husband's in a ball on the floor. Like, how about if we were all told from the beginning, we have these lessons, we have seminary, we have institute, we have Sunday school. How about we're all taught, hey, having kids is one of the purposes of life, but also having a great career or contributing to the world, making a difference, learning, serving in your community is another thing. And some people have kids and some people don't, and that's okay.
I was going to say, I would add normalizing also childless by choice.
Yeah.
Not everyone, has it can be actually the healthy choice not to have children, and you can live a fully expansive, loving, beautiful life.
Yeah. Yeah. What if you decide that you're not mentally, psychologically capable of, and you just know yourself, and you just are like, I know that I just know some people don't like chocolate, and some people don't have sex drive, and some people may just not want to have kids, but there's no space created for that. So like all these things, the magical thinking, the cultural pressure, and the lack of information just all seem to be screaming problems.
And that's what I'm hearing, like in a young marriage, like you're so young being together, and what you're describing just feels so incredibly pressureful.
Yeah.
So such a roller coaster, asking so much of you. And I'm going to volley over to Jenn, but then I really would like to explore the body part of this.
Yeah.
So this is a little hard for me. So first of all, my heart's with Jessica in this trial that her and her husband went through, and the narrative that's being fed to them, and the shame and guilt and not being enough, and not feeling worthy enough, and all those things that they had to feel and go through. I personally had no problem getting pregnant. Almost got pregnant too easy. But someone I love has infertility, and she did the IUI. I believe it's IUI, right?
Yeah.
She did IUI a few times, and then she did I forget what all the terms are now, but anyways, she did like 5 other things, 3 doctors, and they just finally found out that she couldn't have kids. It just wasn't going to happen. And I saw her countenance like change from this bubbly go-getter, like everyone's friend, like, and I know there's like the last time she did it, the doctor actually called her and her husband and said, this, I don't do higher doses than this. So you're on the highest one we can do. I just want you to know that she will be have like 5 times as much hormones in her that she would normally have. It's going to be really hard. There's going to be lots of mood swings, it's going to be a hard road, but do you want to pursue it? Do you want, this? So they decided to go and try it. And it didn't happen again. So, anyways, heartbroken, devastated. And I saw her countenance changing, and she allowed me to read her patriarchal blessing. And in the blessing, it wasn't vague. It wasn't not just a little specific, but it was very specific. And it said that she would be a mother here on earth. She would carry all of her children. She would have many children. And she would be a mother, and it gave her like specific details. So, and then of course at the end of the blessing, like everyone's patriarchal blessing that I've heard of so far, it says, if you are doing what you should and are worthy of these blessings, then they will come to you. So now this woman is feeling she's not worthy, wanting to be a mother, knows she can't. Wondering why God isn't answering her prayers. And just not feeling good enough. Like, just the narratives being, played to her, I'm praying for you. If you pray hard enough, if you, what are you doing? Are there any sins you're committing that you, should be taken care of? Like, and this is a returned missionary, went to BYU, married in the temple. If there's a more perfect person, I do not know them, and it wasn't happening. And I just like, there's so much in that. There's so much to like dissect and take out of that, to tell, like, to bring women up in the church, feeding them that their divine role here on earth and in heaven is to have children.
Yeah.
And so then to tell them they will unless they're not worthy. And then for that to be like what everyone's desires are, like what their purpose is. And this narrative is not fed to only women in the church. This narrative is fed to the men also. So then, like your sweet husband, he's on the floor crying because he doesn't feel worthy, because it's not happening. And then there's the opposite of that. And then there's husbands that I know, because their wife couldn't have children, left them. And I'm going to pause right there and think about that. Like, how wrong is that? Like, how wrong is that for you to tell a woman, give her her narrative and what she is to be. You give that to her, what she is to be. And then you tell her she's unworthy. And then you tell her God took that from her. And then you shame and blame her. And then you leave. And to that same woman to have another woman come to her and tell her that she had a vision, or I think she called it a vision. She had a vision, and she knows that she's not able to have children on this earth because she wasn't as righteous in heaven. That's another woman in the church saying that to another woman. You don't understand. I don't think that the priesthood, the leaders of the church understand this narrative and how devastating and like identity ripping, shredding, like worthiness, like relationship they should have with whatever spirituality they have in their life is torn apart because of this narrative that you're feeding the women in the church. And it's wrong on so many levels, in so many ways. And that's just one story. Like, that's just one story. And that is heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking. And there just needs to be a change in the narrative that is spoken to women within the church. And unless you're going to use your priesthood, apostles of the church, unless you're going to use your priesthood to go around to every woman that's infertile and bless them so that they'll have a baby, because you have the priesthood, you have that power. And I know God isn't mad at them, so it must be you. So I don't know. To me, your priesthood and your narrative is full of shit. And I'm done. I'm done with you saying it to women. So anyways, that's a hard subject for me to talk about and to not use hard words with. So I'll gonna give it back to Margi and Jessica. I've taken my time. But I think it's important that you know how devastating that feels to a woman in your narrative.
I think, thank you, Jen, because this is why I'm here. Because so many women struggle and hurt and ache and cry, and people that they know and love cry over this infertility bull crap that we're not taught, because you think everything's going to be okay. And like kind of what you said, John, of, in the temple, like, to multiply and replenish the earth, it's everywhere, going through the veil. Like when me and my husband would try to find solace, we'd go to the temple and going through the veil. When you say power in the priesthood be upon me and upon my posterity through all generations of time and throughout all eternity, that killed me every single time, because I don't have a posterity.
Like seeking healing. You're seeking to feel.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't have a posterity to give the power of the priesthood to. And I'm just like, this narrative of we're only going to find peace and happiness, not only through the commandments and following the prophet, but to have kids so that they can have the priesthood in their lives. It's just kind of a smack in the face to all of us women who can't or who choose not to. Like, it's very hard. And then you start bargaining, or you lose that light. As Jen was talking about, is you feel defeated, you beat yourself up. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, I have the faith that God won't bless me with a baby. But in the deep depth of my brain, I'm like, okay, do you see that, Heavenly Father? Like, I have the faith you won't bless me with a baby. Now can you bless me with one? I'm showing how faithful I am.
Right.
I'm just bargaining. And that's what all of us women who struggle with it do. And I know this is a total opposite, but you think about those women who did get married young and who did have babies, and they're hurting too because they followed the commandments too, or follow what the prophet said. It's like you can't win either way. The narrative is wrong. Let's just listen to ourselves. Let's listen to what our bodies and our paths feel right to us.
Amen, Jessica.
100%. So,
Amen.
So beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
Mhm.
Really. That story. Do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of, I hope, and then we can get back into the narrative, but as you all were speaking, it reminded me of this podcast that I'd listened to recently with Alok on a podcast called Finding Our Way. I think it's Finding Our Way. And they identify as trans femme, and they're an activist and a poet, live in poetry, but also just speak in poetry. And on this podcast, they brought up this idea that really made me pause for a minute and reflect on, we can use this in systems like us growing up in the church, but it also works with our family of origin and what we've been taught then to look for in partnership. And it's this idea that we've been taught, there's a part of the podcast where they say, we've been taught that love is use. It is the use you provide. And oftentimes you're not part of the discussion in defining what utility you bring, but usually it benefits the person defining your use, right? And that we've bought into that lie. That's where our value is. That's what love is, right? So with our parents, it may be that we play into their ego and make them feel like good parents, or make them feel accomplished, or make them feel comfortable in the way they view the world, right? And, in this system, it's on some level, women being of use and childbearing and mothering. But the powerful part for me was, but love is care.
Mm-hmm.
Love is care. So if you're not feeling care, we're not talking about love, right? And I just loved that. That's true in families. That's true in systems. That if your worth, if your value is tied around your use, your utility, right? I've got no time for that, right? We deserve love that feels like care from ourselves.
Yes.
From people we're in relationship to, and in systems we choose to be part of.
Yes.
And you all just kind of reminded me of what happens when, we take in that narrative and we mistake this idea that our worth and love feels like use. It feels like we become, this sense of utility,
Mhm.
So
Yes.
Yeah, totally agree.
It's an objectification. It's turning a subject into an object.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically saying you have utility. And I mean, it's easy to beat up on the church, but they set themselves up. They set themselves up as being prophets, seers, and revelators who talk to God in the one true church. So they set a high bar for themselves, because we would expect them to then be the model of sensitivity and foresightedness, right? Because this doesn't just affect infertile women and couples, but also women who or men who aren't able to get married.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many single people are in the church? They just haven't been able to find a quote worthy mate. It's partially because the church teaches that only temple recommending holding Mormons are worthy, so their pool is limited. So it's a way bigger problem than just infertile people in the church. It's also single people in the church. And you would just expect a church that claims to have a direct line to Jesus, literally, prophets, seers, and revelators are special witnesses of Christ. They would have been able to say this 150 years ago, and it would have been in the Doctrine and Covenants, by the way. Think about it. I think about statistically infertility, and if you add singleness, it's worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably 1 out of 6, you know what I mean? Or 1 out of 4. It would be like saying right-handedness is divine. It would be like in the Mormon temple ceremony, right-handedness is elevated as the purpose of life. And then like 1 out of 9 people are like, I'm left-handed. And it's nothing that they did. Like that would be like, seriously, that would be irresponsible.
You know what's
right?
funny is I'm
Right.
left-handed. That's what makes it funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't that be outrageous if right-handedness was elevated as core to your purpose and existence on earth?
Yeah. And then everyone around you
Yeah.
saying, yep, it's the right-handed. Yep. Only right-handed people.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
they're like, why are you using your left hand? And you're like, oh, sorry, I'll use my right hand,
Yeah.
and it's like that. And so if it's that prominent, if it's that significant, then church, if you're speaking with God and with Jesus, then get ahead of this curve. And, it's like, I'm thinking Harry Potter, like when you go to the sorting house or whatever, you're going to be one of four things. Like you don't go, maybe you want to be Gryffindor, but you're Hufflepuff, but you're going to be one of four things, right? Well, why can't it be that? Why can't it be like, hey, there are lots of purposes in life. Well, I'm repeating myself now, but one is to get married and have kids, but there are other awesome purposes. And who knows how the sorting hat, biologically is going to sort for you. But here's one thing we'll tell you, it has nothing to do with your worthiness, and all houses are equally important. I'm mixing metaphors there.
No, absolutely. Like, let's educate on other outcomes in life instead of the one outcome, the one narrative that the church wants us to follow and do. There's multiple situations, even with the LGBTQ community, like just with everything. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And I think this goes beyond clearly it goes beyond the church as well. The reason why I brought it up is kind of to be able to seed a level of empowerment and being able to discern, what really love is, what it should feel like. And I think we have it all around us. I think, I mean, our jobs, right? That's another kind of use where we can kind of feel exploited as opposed to cared for. And just being wise as to when we feel like what we're really talking about is use and someone's benefiting from the narrative that they're handing you. And oftentimes that is patriarchal in nature or capitalistic in nature. And I'm not down on capitalism. I just think there are some weaknesses about capitalism that can be exploitive and more about use than care. And I do think care matters in the picture. So
yeah, and I apologize for jumping in so much, but one last thought I had is that the church is not a neutral, objective party. That it's very important to the Mormon church, number one, that it grows and that there's a perception that it's growing. And two, that it has, more and more tithing, more and more people to serve the church. So when the church is super child, and the church knows that and it's done field testing to kind of come to this realization, if they can get you married young and having lots of babies, there's like a 20 times greater likelihood that you're going to create lots of babies that then become tithe payers.
That's right. It's who's benefiting.
And they've said that. So the church is super self-interested in promoting the baby, lots of babies narrative.
Yes.
And so that's an extra reason why it's dishonorable for them to push this narrative so hard, because they not only are harming other people, but they have a self-interest in making this narrative primal. You're nodding your head.
Well,
Jessica.
I'm disgusted, honestly, because it's annoying. And like with the deconstruction process of, oh, this is a corporation. Like, okay, let's get that money when they have billions and billions. And these are people's feelings involved. These are human lives at stake. And that sounds drastic, but we have all conformed our lives and tried to follow this narrative. And it's just sad that we all have had to go through this pain because we tried to follow it, and sometimes it doesn't work the way you want it, but they're benefiting from it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's bullcrap.
Yeah. And I do think there are other systems that benefit. And I think part of that is healthcare, because I do think I'm curious, I don't know about you with regard to paying, but many of the people I know who have gone through numerous fertility treatments have had to pay a lot out of pocket. for a way of being in their bodies that exists. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like, you have a body with a uterus and decide to have a baby and have problems, and you're penalized for having a body that was born this way and had, is a system.
It's
and so it's
biology.
tricky, and, all sorts of things happen in bodies. And so for whatever reason, but then you pay out of pocket, as opposed to like, yes, as part of our system, we accept that. And, wow, women hold a lot to, when it comes to civilization. And that's something that we support and we cover. No? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And with us, when we were going through our infertility treatments, my husband was in full-time work, full-time school, and I was working 2 jobs so that we can keep our insurance that I needed. Like, we just bust in our butts to try to have that effing baby.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, no, it's because wouldn't that be nice if they could help any way? But no, like, we pay thousands of dollars for it.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to go further in it because it would be too expensive for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. That it would it's like tens of thousands of dollars per couple, if not up to the $100,000 mark, to try to have a baby for some couples. And like, if this is the narrative that they're going to say to women, and this is their highest calling and their biggest blessing, and it's like the thing that they need to do, by golly, if this is what their narrative is, then you take your $4 billion.
Well, 4?
And you
Did you say 4? How about 200 billion?
You take your $2 trillion, no, whatever money you have. If this is your narrative that you're telling to women, and this is their highest calling, then you pay for it.
Amen.
Like, yeah, if they want to do it, then you pay for it. You do it. Because
Jenn's just calling them out.
Jen's mic dropping. Jen's mic dropping today.
Yeah. Can I just say something as a side note for the listeners so that they can have this understanding? I feel like a lot of them are probably saying, oh, then why don't you adopt? Okay. Yes. And it is still thousands of dollars. It is still a wait. It is still not a guarantee. Like, it's either way. So when people say that, yes, you can. But it's not a guarantee. It's still the same thing as infertility treatments. So I just want to make that clear to the listeners. That is an option. Absolutely. Have we thought about it? Absolutely. But it's still not a guarantee of a baby. And it's still a lot of money.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yeah.
So to get back to your story a little bit, to me, what I'm recognizing now is this idea that you, as a young girl, when you started the interview, had said you had this natural sort of desire as a girl to be a mom, to have a family. And here you go through years and years of, doing all the things. And then you get married and you're finally in this place where you're like, okay, I'm here. Finally, like, knows for a long, like, it took a long time to get here, but now we got it. Let's do it. Right.
Yeah.
And then you go through, it just sounds absolutely financially exhausting, emotionally exhausting, physically exhausting, so much stress on this early relationship. And can we just talk about loss? Can we talk about the grief and loss and what that felt like in that moment? To, what did it feel like? And how did you, how have you processed that?
Like the loss of being done with trying?
Yes.
Yes.
And even this idea of like, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I got that phone call, so with IUIs, there's you can either start your period and then you don't have to go in and get blood drawn, or you can go in and get your blood drawn and then they'll tell you if you're pregnant or not. And the first 2 I already started, so I didn't need to go in. But my last time I got to get my blood drawn, and I'm like, Brendan, we did it. Like, this is it. And I got my blood drawn, and like by that night, the nurse called, and I knew by the moment she asked, "Is this Jessica?" I was like, "It's negative." And she told me it was negative, and I just had this experience and to top it off, I had COVID. So I was already isolated from the world, and I was isolated in my thoughts, and I just lost it like I never had before. I'm ripping, like trying to rip the sheets. I'm screaming, I'm yelling. I just lost it. And I call up my husband, and I couldn't even get out the words. And he knew, and he just was like, "I love you. I'm sorry. I love you." And he's trying to be the strong one because I'm clearly not in that moment of time. And I just told him, "I'm done. I'm over it. I'm done." And I know that the fertility specialist wanted to meet with us in a month to go over future plans. And I just said, "I don't want to. We're not going to do this anymore. We need to take care of ourselves because we were so young. We started so young in our marriage that we didn't really have time to just have fun in our relationship. We were so consumed with trying to make a child and like the stress about that it's like we're gonna have Brendan and Jessica time, take care of ourselves emotionally and mentally. I'm done peeing on sticks. I'm done stressing about everything. We're just gonna take time for us." But still, I couldn't relax in the back of my mind, even though I said I was done and we weren't trying and I wasn't meeting with fertility specialists. I still couldn't be at peace because of the religious aspect of it all, because I still was trying my hardest to show Heavenly Father, I am still doing the right things. There's still a chance, right? Even though I wouldn't say it in my subconscious brain, deep, 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 deep down in there, I would have that conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you still had that peace.
Yeah. Yes. And I just any sort of I still would do all the right things. I still would try to check all the boxes so that because I can show to Heavenly Father, so I can prove to him, "Hey, even though we're done, I'm letting you be in charge of this. This is your will, this is your way. But can you please still help me out here? Like, do you see how good I'm doing? Do you see how much me and Brendan love each other? Do you see how nice I am with my nieces and nephews? I'll be a really good mom, I swear, please." Like, I would bargain with him. So I didn't feel truly, truly at peace with infertility until I started questioning the church. And that's where, like, to this day, right now, I am 100% good. Like, it's biology. It is what it is. Whatever happens, happens. Like, it doesn't affect my brain. It doesn't consume every single thought. And it hasn't in a year and a half. And I can breathe. I can breathe and not feel stressed. And it's been wonderful. So
Can you just take us through a tiny bit about that process for you of, did you start just unrelated questioning the church, or because sometimes Jonathan Haidt in The Righteous Mind talks about the emotions are the elephant and the logic is the rider on the elephant, but oftentimes it's the emotions that drive. So I'm wondering if it was just sort of like totally unrelated that you started questioning, or if you were emotionally exhausted with praying and not getting answers, and that opened you up to questioning. And then, we don't dwell on the faith crisis part of the narrative on Thrive Stories, but we do want you to, people really value it. So we don't mind if you spend a few minutes on what it was like for you to start questioning, and what were the ways that you questioned or learned information, and how did you arrive out of that journey of questioning?
yeah, I'll talk a little just briefly about it. So a lot of people, when I like quote unquote came out to my family and friends that I was leaving the church, a lot of them thought what you asked John was, is it because you can't have a baby? I got that question a lot. And the answer is no. It was something so minuscule. How it all started, it was church policies of wanting a double ear piercing. And my husband was like, "Go for it." And then I'm like, "But why? Like, why could I never get one?" I questioned it, and I read when President Hinckley said it's discouraged. And I'm like, well, that didn't come from God. That came from a man who had a personal preference. And then it kind of just started from there, where I was like, okay, well, I don't think that came from God. What else didn't come from God? Like, and that kind of just, it was a year-long process, but Facebook groups helped me when I wasn't fully ready to, read the CES letter or watch Mormon stories. Like, I was part of a nuanced Facebook group that helped me. And then
Is that Waters of Mormon?
It's called Nuanced Mormon, LDS, like Nuanced Mormon group, the women group. It's amazing. And that kind of helped me. And I was in the Young Women's presidency, and I was scared because I'm questioning, and yet I'm still teaching these girls like these things that I'm questioning about. And then I came across Mormon stories on my TikTok For You page. And it kind of like, you get this feeling of like, what am I watching? Like, and it's just so funny.
What are you watching,
I know.
Jessica?
I'm like, who is this? It's so funny how they control the narrative, because I had no idea who John DeLynn was or Mormon stories, like, because I did all the right things. And I'm like, and it was something about, I love the LGBTQ community. So someone talking about their experience, it was about conversion, and it made me cry. It would make me sick. And then I reached out to one of my dear companions on my mission, who she left the church. And if you only knew who she was, Miss, do not, like, this queen, follow all the rules. I'm like, there's something missing here. So as I'm deconstructing my faith, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I'm not worried that I have a kid. I'm not worried about trying to get pregnant. I'm just a human being trying to live a life and figuring myself out. And so that's where the peace came at, is something totally different. And I decided fully not too long ago in March, where I'm like, I'm done. I'm over it. I can't make it work anymore. But it's the reality of, we're all humans, and we all have our own issues. We all have our own baggage, and we're just trying to get through this life. Like, it's just like, it's okay that I'm not pregnant. It's okay that I can't. It's okay that it's just me and Brendan. Like, that's okay. There is nothing wrong with that. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. So it sounds like, was your transition kind of over a year? Is that what you said?
it was really fast. Yeah.
Okay.
Like a little over a year ago is when I started questioning, and it just went rampant, because I was all in, and I just saw the huge inconsistencies, because I became obsessed. I became obsessed with Mormon stories. I became obsessed with these Facebook groups because of like the actual information. And I read these books like Under the Banner of Heaven before this series came out. Eye-opening. Like, it was a thing that I couldn't not read or get a hold of, because I'm just, oh my gosh, they control the narrative for so long. These are just facts. There's no biasism.
Yeah.
And even a turning point, Steven Pinnaker on the show, like, I loved him because there was no bias. He didn't grow up in the church. He just studied that church like crazy, and just listening to all this information and putting the pieces together.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm seeing kind of in your narrative, as you're describing it, as we're kind of climaxing in suffering, right? As you're trying and you're doing all the things and you're taking all the hits as you're, going through fertility treatments, that you reach this point of catalyst for change, right? And it feels like, on some level, not deciding to do fertility how would you describe the catalyst for change? Because it almost feels like your faith transition feels a bit of rebuilding, which is interesting.
For sure. It was the most healing thing ever. And I would be a damaged little bird if I didn't leave. I know I would. Like, it was healing and peace. And I have never felt better in my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Which is so funny, because that's not the narrative they tell you, but it is incredible. And just, like I said, I would wake up every day like feeling like there's an elephant on my chest, because I had to make sure I did all the right things. And now it's just like, let's just wake up and just have a good day and be nice to people and be nice to ourselves.
Yeah. It sounds like the faith transition kind of disentangled the hold it kind of had over you in that way. What are some other aspects or things that helped you, like, were part of your rebuilding process around, let's just say, your sense of worthiness and value in particular. So clearly the faith transition was part of that, right?
Mhm.
And it sounds like, letting go of, a past self's dream kind of was part of that.
Yes.
What were other things?
I think the need to try to prove to Heavenly Father that He loves me because I'm doing the right thing. I think we're told that He loves us unconditionally, but yet we're supposed to have this standard that is impossible to meet with even President Nelson. And I think just letting go of that and being like, I am worthy for just being alive. And I just think a sense of I think just being worried constantly. I don't worry anymore of what, like, so I would get to the point it became so obsessive where I'd be like, does the spirit want me to turn left or turn right when I go to work? It got really
Mhm.
obsessiveness.
I did that.
It's so
I
crazy.
totally did that same thing. Left or right, Spirit, Holy Ghost,
Oh
which
my
way?
I'm going to give you a chance here
Yeah.
to guide. We'll see. We'll see what we're going to do today.
It's so validating that
Yeah.
you guys did that.
I totally did it.
And so like I just think of just being me, just without like I am loved with no matter what. And I do think part of this process has built my relationship with my parents, because my parents have taken all of this like total rock stars, and like they love me because I'm their daughter. And my mom constantly says, why should it matter? You're my daughter. Why does it matter? You're my daughter. And they've just been amazing. And having that example also has been healing, because they don't love me because I kept all the rules. They love me because they created me. And I think who or whatever God is, if there is a God, they feel that same way also. Is you're a soul and you are special.
I love that you get to experience that kind of love, that modeling of love from a parent. I think many people don't. They end up having to kind of give it to themselves or find it in family, friends that oftentimes serve as family. But I love that, because that is care
Yes.
instead of use, right?
Yes.
That's, I love you as a being in this
Yes.
form, the way you show up, the way you want to be. I care about that over this idea of,
I get emotional when I think about it, because I think, what's the catch, Mom? What's the catch, Dad? Like, okay, so you're fine with this now. Is it because you're trying to come to terms with it? But even just yesterday, I got a tattoo and my mom's holding my hand while I'm getting a tattoo.
Holy moly.
Yeah, like
love
she
it.
just was right there, and she's like,
Mormon Mom of the Year.
yeah,
Mhm.
and she is incredible. And like, I don't know how I got it, because I've heard stories on here or on Facebook groups where they'll send a screenshot and be like, this is what my parents say. And I'm like, my parents are like, I'm sure they're sad. It's okay to be sad. Like, but they're just rock stars. And it's good to, like you said, it's good to feel that, because it's helping me remember that unconditional love truly does exist. So,
yeah. Do you mind if we revisit body for a minute?
yeah, go for it.
And how your relationship with your own body, can we follow that arc through probably a really difficult moment? So dealing with infertility,
Yeah.
right? What were your thoughts around your body during that time of trying to get pregnant, finding out more about your body, and kind of feeling this hyper responsibility?
Yeah. I hated my body, and I thought it was my fault because I wasn't a size 2. And I was like, oh, because I'm not skinny, I can't get pregnant. Or when I was pregnant, I even had the thought of, would they be able to find the baby through my layer of fat? Isn't that so sad? I know that's so sad, but it's true, and it's real. And I think a lot of women feel that way. And then like the continuous trying and the many fails and negative pregnancy tests, I'm like, it's because it's my body. It's my fat body. Like, it was just a constant in my brain, is that, and it's my fault, even though there's multiple tens of thousands of women. You got a uterus, you got ovaries, you can get pregnant. But it's like, but no, because I don't look a certain way. Like, that narrative in my mind fed into every aspect. And even like I would cry because I'm sorry, Brendan. I'm trying to eat healthy, or I'm trying to work out this way. Or, I even met with a holistic nutritionist because I'm like, let's go holistic. Just nothing was working. And I would overexert everything to try to create something for us. And now I still have issues with loving my body, but the thing is because I can let go of the worry of God and let go of the worry of the church, I can focus on rebuilding this sense of self-worth. And that's what I've been doing. Like since I moved to Oklahoma, it's been a lot of self-work and a lot of, this is a human body. Like, it's okay. Like, let's love ourselves, because I truly feel like if you love yourself, you can do anything. And I'm just trying to get to that point. And because I don't have any other added stresses, and I can focus on that and be okay with it, and then learn to take care of it mentally, physically.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you have removed the layer that was providing so much of the aggressive languaging and some of the roots of belief around yourself and your body.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems like what I hear is kind of you're prioritizing your own healing and trying to reframe
Yes.
around your own relationship with your body. Is that right?
Yes. Because like my goal before I left the church was to get married and have kids, and then, endure to the end, right? Now my ultimate goal in life is to be happy with myself. If I'm happy with myself, I feel like I can nourish others around me because I'm in a happy, healthy mental place.
Yeah.
So
can I ask you a question around the reframe?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we were going to take some of a thought you had before about your body, and then an example of a thought that now maybe you answer when you have a thought like that, like your reframe now, or a thought that now represents you in what you say about your body, what would they be?
So like a previous thought and then a newer thought. Previous thought, it's really sad. I'm a fat, worthless piece of crap. New thought, I'm trying. I'm doing the best that I can. Give yourself grace. So, and even like I am worthy tattooed on my arm to remember I'm worthy no matter what. I'm not worthless, because that's a big thought that entered me throughout my whole life, is I'm worthless. The shame. I am worthy regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, do you want to add anything to your rebuilding story? Do you feel like you hit kind of some of those core pieces of rebuilding?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
I have a question, and this touches on me a little bit. I've been having a lot of thoughts about this, believe it or not, even though I have 4 kids. But first, I'll ask you. It maybe for some it's going to sound really quick. It's like, oh, I lost my faith, and now I'm okay not having kids. But there probably are still people that, independent of their religious beliefs, really wanted kids. And is there anything else you can say about your processing or grieving that for people that are like, well, forget religion, like I just wanted kids?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I think that's a good question. So let me say, like, the whole transition of deciding to leave the church was not easy. It was hard. It was heartbreaking because I felt like I lost myself, because I knew who I was as a Mormon woman. And now I felt like my whole world came crashing down. It got so bad that my body was shutting down. Like, I was hemorrhaging heavy for weeks because I was so stressed out about this whole religious aspect. So yeah, everything's great now, but that doesn't mean that that whole year was roses. It wasn't. Like, it has been these last few months of actually moving to Oklahoma where I'm like, we're good. But I just think that whatever people want to do with their lives, I just want them to know, like, it's okay to feel grief. It's okay to feel pain. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have kids. There's nothing wrong with being in the church and wanting to have kids. Everyone's story is different. And I want people to listen to what makes them feel right to themselves and to not worry about what external views there are out there. I don't know if that answers your question, John, but I don't know, that's such a loaded question that I just think it's important to let yourself grieve. And then what can we do to build ourselves, to help ourselves feel better, to move on? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done. I would say it's not easy. Like, and I am of course a woman who still wants to have a kid, maybe, but it is what I've just made that peace where it's like, it's okay. But of course, when I see, like, of course, when I see a Facebook announcement, sometimes I'm like, oh, man, or like I see my husband play with our nephews. I'm like, but but I don't get mad for thinking that or thinking, come on, Heavenly Father. It's like, yeah, that would be nice, but that's
Yeah.
okay. Like, we're
Yeah.
fine, you know?
Yeah. Yep. And I love how you're describing it, because I do think of grief that way. I view grief as something that, you kind of, you bring it with you. And it's not something that you kind of pack up, okay, I did grief and now I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It
Yes.
comes up. It will come up from time to time and you will remember, right? And it may have a soft place for you that feels
Yes.
tender, And I love that too, applying that it's a process and maybe a life process,
Yes.
Maybe it's something that you'll always kind of hold. And body is a process. I just feel like I don't know that body gets boxed up where it's just like, I'm good,
Yes.
I think, process is just there's freedom in that, there is just some space in allowing yourself to realize, that this will be a process. This is a relationship that I will likely have, you
Yeah.
know?
And I like coming to terms with that. Like, I feel like I've come to terms with that in infertility. And now it's like, I feel like I need to come to terms with that in my body, right? Like, it's okay that you feel this way. And I feel like so many women, especially Mormon women, feel like they can't, and maybe I'm speaking for them, but I think that they feel like they can't grieve or feel this way because you have to put on a face like everything's okay. And I just want to let everyone know they can grieve and they can be sad about this and they can be annoyed by it because it is annoying. It is bull crap that a ton of people can get pregnant and don't have stable houses. My husband's in social work and I hear all these stories and it's heartbreaking, but it's okay to feel that way. And it's also like because you're human, you're going to feel these intense feelings about not being able to get pregnant, and like, I don't want to say move on, but it's give yourself grace. Like, let yourself feel that. But what are some ways that you can do to not focus on it? Because focusing on the issue, it more hinders than helps. Like, what can we do to thrive in whatever experience you want to experience instead of holding on to the why me, why can't I have it? It brings more pain and sorrow than actual joy.
Mm. Yeah. I like that. And I imagine also being able to feel like you're probably, if you're in this place where now you have information where okay, for whatever reason, I won't be able to bear children, then maybe you're in a different road. Maybe that now puts you somewhere that you didn't expect. And realizing that and giving yourself a little minute to realize you're now in a new place, a place you didn't anticipate, and giving yourself space around that, and then looking into options and realizing and just being internally led in that process and allowing yourself to look at, okay, what is available, and allowing that space to grieve and to disentangle from expectation of other people, and really just, allow you and your partner to create a new day.
Yeah.
And a new vision based on the new information,
Yeah, I think the internally led part is huge. Instead of listening to the outside voices of whatever culture, church, or humans tell you, listen to what you feel like is right for yourself and what other options available. Or like you said, start a new day and see how you're going to process it.
Yeah.
That's that's something I was going to ask you about, because many of the people that I talk to about having children, if they for some reason can't have children, like a lesbian couple or a gay they can't, maybe they can't or don't want to have biological children. Sometimes, or infertile people, sometimes their immediate reaction is, well, I can adopt or I can have foster kids. So on the one hand, did you consider that? Are you considering that? And then, yeah, and then I just to kind of answer that question myself is I think we should notice that that's an automatic response, and it's probably a product of programming. And I think the answer to that question really lies in what you just said, Jessica, which is, we'll dig deep. Are you saying that just out of a reaction, or is it really what you really want? And the reason I say that is because well, let me have you answer that, and then I have one other thing I wanted to share.
Yeah, for sure. So we are thinking about adoption in the future. I think because we spent 4 years of our lives focusing on a kid, I think we're focusing on being a young married couple, just having fun and being with each other and healing because of all the trauma.
I love that.
So right now we're just adjusting to our new life in a new state. And I think maybe in a few years, I think maybe adoption's on the table, but it's also like there's no exact plan. It's, hey, if it'll happen, if it's in the cards, if it feels right, for sure. But right now we're just thriving, being ourselves and healing and growing. And I feel like I'm saying those words a lot, but it's true. It's like the constant every day of stressing out to have a kid. It just feels so wonderful to not stress about it.
I so hear that, the
Yeah.
release of that
Yeah.
from what you've lived
Yes.
to just like, let's just focus on each other. Let's
Yes.
enjoy. What do we want from life aside from this whole piece that was such a focus? There's a lot of life, a lot of love to be lived
Yes.
outside just of a narrative of children.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were we gonna say?
Maybe one of the two other things I was going to say is this has really become personal to me in an odd way, because I do have 4 children, but there's a decent probability that I want to have grandchildren, and I'm not trying to make a prediction, but there's a few reasons why. We have some LGBT members, in my family, and then we have there's some just kids who, for mental health reasons or others, just may decide they don't want kids. And there's a dynamic that I'm noticing in kind of the current Gen Z generation, or even millennial generation, that I don't remember in my generation, being a Gen Xer. And that's just a general feeling like the world is burning. I hear that a lot, that phrase, the world is burning. Things are kind of out of control. And I don't know that I want to bring a kid into this world. And that, with my Mormon programming, that's a really shocking thing to hear. It's like, what? And even if I'm just putting on my humanist hat, I'm like, I believe in humankind. I believe in the advancement of humans. I think humans, we're problematic, but we're also miracles, and let's keep advancing as humans. So there's a part of me that's really offended or hurt or sad by a prevailing sentiment that I hear, this childless by choice. And I have multiple family members, men in particular, that have chosen to get vasectomies in their 20s or 30s. And I'm talking about multiple, just because they're like, no, I don't want kids. I thought about it and I don't want kids. But then on the other hand, as I've had children struggle with mental illness, or family members struggle with mental illness, and I would say, well, do this or that, I'm your dad. And they'll say to me, Dad, I didn't ask to be brought into this world. So don't pull the "you're my dad" card, so I owe you kind of card, because life is not fun for me. And it may be fun for you, but I'm trying and it's not fun for me. And when a kid expresses that over multiple years or a decade, then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, it's a non-trivial thing to bring a life into this world. because nobody chooses to be suicidal. Nobody chooses to have major depressive disorder or major anxiety disorder or self-harm. Like nobody wants any of that. Like that's just like, again, just like you, the biological cards you get dealt. And so all of that has made me just really think about why did I feel such grief when I consider the reality that we may not have grandkids? Why was that so devastating for me? And then I realized it's because I was programmed just like the rest of everybody. Like, yeah, it's kids and then it's grandkids, and that's what it's all about. And then I thought about like, well, does that really matter that my genetics persist across generations? Like, does that really matter? Is that a bad thing? Because there's a lot of mental health problems in my genetic material. And I guess I guess I'm not so much asking a question as I am just being vulnerable and sharing that this has touched me in ways that has made me rethink how hard life is, how flippant we should be about bringing life into the world, and how, thoughtful we should be, especially if we're not really up for it. If we're not, like, I have had the luxury of being the best dad, feeling like I've been the best dad that I could. I've made mistakes, but I feel like I've been the best dad that I could. Man, if anybody brings a kid in this world and they're not really ready to be the best parent they can be,
Yeah, I do.
And
Like,
and we've
think
had
about that.
resources. We've had much more
Privilege.
resources. We've
Crap
had
ton
a
of
ton of
privilege.
privilege in that
Mhm.
journey.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I apologize that I'm not really asking you a question.
No,
But
I
I'm
love
just
that
being
you're
vulnerable.
vulnerable about it, because I think that's it. I think vulnerability is such a powerful tool. And I think because, my mom has made comments in the past, oh, I want grandkids, give me some. And I'm like, I'm trying, and it's obviously painful, because she's got two biological, but she's got maybe more than that through step, but they're ours. Anyways, but it's like I'm trying, just don't just sometimes things like that. Like I get it. It's
Mhm.
that programming. And even you just saying that, oh, your guys' kids don't want to have kids, but it's that programming in me, right? Like even still oh yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't matter. So you just I have to catch myself even still.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is I feel like my kids some of them are in open spaces
Mhm.
where that decision isn't ruling their life. It's not a given. It's actually a choice. That right there is completely a fundamental difference between us as a couple and I also think the world feels different in a fundamental way to the so that idea of choice, I think, is something that I look at them and the things that they're considering are really selfless. The way they're approaching that decision, they're asking so many more questions than when I compare, to myself at that, age or when I decided to have children, honestly.
Yeah. I think choice alone, they have just the fact that they have choice, because I feel like us growing up, it's just what you do. You just get married and have kids. And then what happens when
Yeah.
you're at a standstill, you know?
Right.
And then just having that eye opening. There are choices that can be involved, and it's important to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we did a kind of a quick resources, are there any resources that come to mind that have been particularly helpful for you in your reframing around worthiness, around your own journey in infertility that helped you have, get information? Or does anything come to mind that way that you feel like you would like to share?
Honestly, the resources that have helped me is there's just a few Facebook groups that, if I reach out, I'm just like, am I in my head? Just kind of getting this common ground of all of us that we have deconstructed. We're all here together in this common goal. That has mostly helped me, but there's a couple podcasts that are helping me that I listen to try to get out of that mind space of unworthiness. The infertility thing, I think once I got that phone call of it failed, I think I just kind of shut the book and just kind of moved away and just let myself be okay that it won't happen. And, it was a journey. But like leaving the church has helped that. But there's a few podcasts that helps me with my inner work. And
Do you want to share those? Do
yeah,
you feel
it has
comfortable?
the F word in it though.
That's okay.
Okay. It's called Unfuck Your Brain.
Uh-huh.
That's a good one. I love that one.
Great.
And then School of Learning. That's another one. There's just a couple life coaches that just kind of help you train your brain to see yourself and the divinity that you are
Beautiful.
with no strings attached.
Yeah.
So,
okay, great.
yeah.
I was going to ask you too, your advice on, we had talked about this earlier, this idea. So let's say you have a friend who's going through, or a couple or friends, or that they're going through their own journey, kind of things to say and things not to say to humans who are going through a journey where they're finding it very difficult to get pregnant.
Yes. So, what I would encourage everyone who's listening to me is when you find out someone has infertility issues, please don't say, "Oh, well, when you stop stressing about it, you'll get pregnant." When you find someone who has infertility issues, don't say, "Oh, I've got this friend who she was stressing out about fertility and then they went to adopt and then she got pregnant with twins." I hear that story time and time and time again. That's awesome. You're right. Stress does have a factor involved. But when you tell a woman or a couple who want to get pregnant, who are trying to get pregnant, to not stress about it and to not think about it, and that's when you'll get pregnant, is like, just stop. Like, it doesn't help because we're going to think about it and it's kind of a slap. And I get they're trying to help. I do understand that. So I don't want anyone to take offense to that. But it's also a lot of us who struggle with that. Like, it just doesn't help. I think those are the main. Oh, and then are you going to adopt? Like, is that what you're going to do? Because I just think like people know their options. But I try to give like a sense of grace of, I think they're just trying to see what your future plans are. But sometimes with people who struggle with infertility, sometimes their future plans are just be like our plans are. And I don't think like they're not bad questions. It's just, it kind of hurts our infertility hearts when we're like, I know to not stress, or I know adoption's an option. I just think if it's just encouragement of like, hey, whatever, I'm here for you. Like whatever you're planning on or thinking of, like, I'm here for you, I love you, is helpful.
Mhm.
But I that's what I think the main things are is that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any final questions or comments?
Someone's asking what Facebook groups are. Did you name the Facebook groups?
So one is called Nuanced Mormon Women, and one is called Faith Journey Meetups. Yeah, I love that. So those are the two that have really helped me. But then I'm part of the Mormon Stories podcast and Mormon Enlightenment, because those just have more educating posts that people will post about that I like. But for the women, those are two really good safe spots for women to just pour your heart out if you need advice or just to vent.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So what I just want to say to you, that you said a story earlier, and I don't know why this sentence hit me so bad, but it did, or so good. But when you said that your mom and dad have been so good with your faith transition,
Mm-hmm.
and that your mom said to you, "I love you because I created you."
Mm-hmm.
Like, period. End of story. And that was so powerful to me. And I just was thinking about it for a minute and just thought, I'm going to give 3 narratives, but whatever narrative like feels best to you, listeners or whoever, if you say that sentence from yourself to you, "I love you because I created you," or you say it as if like your parent says it to you, or if you believe in a God or a spirituality, "I love you because I created you." And if that narrative could be adopted by the LDS Church or by high demand religions, or just in general, the general world, could it adopt the narrative that your mom so beautifully said to you, I love you because I created you. Whether that's you creating yourself or however you feel about that sentence is beautiful. Like that is, I just love that she said that to you so much. And I wish that we could all, like all the LDS people, the still believing members could believe in a God like that.
Mhm.
That is the sentence that their Heavenly Father would say to them. Because I believe if there is a Heavenly Father, that is a sentence. I don't understand this angry God, that the Mormon church delivers. And I have my own beliefs now, but I'm just saying in that narrative, that would be the Heavenly Father that I would want to go return to,
Same.
in their religious beliefs. So anyways, I just thought that was such a beautiful sentence. So just
Thank you.
tell your mom that I think that's beautiful.
She's a queen for sure. I think too, like that's why, and I said this previously, but that's why it's so difficult to wrap my brain around because of the God that I feel like we are kind of taught. Like, yeah, we were taught he's loving, but you have to do certain ways to get the kind of love that you should deserve, period. And it's a really cool example of her. So thanks,
Yeah.
Jen.
Yeah. So in closing, if we were gonna, John.
Sorry, maybe you were about to go here, but just in case. So for many people, child having and rearing is like a cornerstone of their meaning and purpose in life.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you're about to go, Margie?
Mhm.
Okay, then
Well,
take it
were
back
you
over.
were you going to ask about purpose and meaning?
Yeah.
Yeah, rebuilding kind of
Yeah.
that. Yes. So just touching really quickly before we close on this rebuilding around, if we take kind of the conditioning that so much of our purpose and meaning is around mothering, bringing children into the world, and you, as you've so beautifully said, you closed that box for what has the rebuilding of purpose and meaning in this moment right now for you? What does it look like?
It looks like happiness, honestly. Like it looks like I think life is hard for every single person. I think we all were given cards or whatever that we deal with, no matter what it is. We all have trauma in our lives, and how we go through that and how we not I want to say deal with it, but how we process it to help us grow stronger and to help ourselves cope. I think this life is to be I think because of all the pain and the hurt we have in our lives, I think to be happy is what I'm striving to be. Like my purpose in life is to be happy. My goal in life is to be happy and to spread happiness to others and uplifting others. That's one of my favorite things. I love to make people feel good about themselves. And I think we need it in life. I think we need to love everyone. And I don't have a certain work goal. I don't have a certain goal that I'm working towards in life other than to be happy and to be at peace with myself. And that's what I'm striving and to be happy in the situations I'm in. And it's a lot of work because my brain always went pessimistically or because I didn't do this, this is why, and just trying to train my brain that let's just be happy and figure out what we can do. And I don't mean not process trauma or emotions. That's not what I mean. I mean, instead of focusing on what we don't have or focusing what I don't have.
On lack.
Yeah. Just
scarcity.
Yeah. Let's just be in the moment
Mhm.
and look at the beauty around us. So
I love that. And will you do a little breakdown for me around some things like what this looks like daily for you? What does it look like I kind of have a sense for you making other people happy.
I love it.
I'm feeling it's a vibe and you walk with it is
I
what I'm
love
going to
it.
say.
Thanks.
But for yourself, when you're talking about right now, purpose and meaning for me
Uh-huh.
is connecting to, this side of life that's peaceful, that's happy, that's celebratory, all the things, right?
Mhm.
But what does that look like for you?
It's hard, Margie, because the person you see now, the bubbly, wanting to make everyone feel good now, the person on the inside is very much like has these deep thoughts. Like right now, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, after this podcast ends, I'm sweaty. So if they hug me, like they're gonna think I'm a gross
We're
pig.
going to love it.
I know, like because it's hot right now. But like, so even though I'm having this different perspective on the inside, it's kind of dark. It's kind of mean. So how it looks like now is these little things that I need to train my brain on, and like they're not worried about you. They don't care. It's okay. It has nothing to do with who you are, or it has nothing to do with the kind of character you are. And I just had to keep reminding myself, or like I'm a office manager at a dental office. That's a hard job because you have to be the bad guy sometimes. It has nothing to do with Jessica. It's your job. It's okay. It doesn't affect you. I just these little phrases to help myself, like, remember it doesn't impact you as a person. It's just the things that are. So
Do you know, I'm so glad that you explained that, because what that feels like to me is that you are taking care of yourself and that you are showing up for yourself in these moments when you're having feelings that feel hard, and you're noticing and trying to practice new ways of allowing yourself to have an experience that feels worth living for you.
yeah,
You know?
it's hard because you have this. I've trained my brain for a long time to have this certain way and to just just to try to love myself. It's very hard, or to think that everyone is judging literally everything about me.
Yeah.
Like, it's scary, but hey, I'm a human. Like, I just have to say those little phrases. I'm a
Yeah.
human.
And you're aware of it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, that's
aware of
true.
it. You're aware of it. And you're questioning it.
Yeah,
You're
that's true.
questioning it.
Like,
It's not
give
like
you
you're
credit for
taking it.
that. Yeah. See, that's the thing is, I need to be like, hey, that's okay. Like, that's good.
I mean, this is like heroic and revolutionary. It's going on inside you. I'm so glad you shared it.
Thanks, Margie. That's so nice. Like, it's nice to be aware, and that's another thing to remember. You're doing good things. You're aware. That's a huge step. You're aware of the thinking.
That's right.
You're working on it.
Yeah, we go nowhere
Yeah.
without awareness. There's just no place to go.
Yeah.
And you're being so vulnerable today, which will be so connecting for so many women that they don't hear a lot of this narrative that you're talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be very powerful.
I hope so. That's my goal. Honestly, my goal in today was to help women feel heard and to know that they are so not alone in this. And that I do want to make it very clear to every woman who struggles with this is no amount of church going or prayer or general conference doesn't make you less of a woman or less of a person. And God's not punishing you. He is not punishing you. It's biology, or it just is. And it's okay. And there's no amount of work you need to do in order to get pregnant. Just live your life and just that. Yes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think once you let that go, I think the healing could begin, or the healing can get better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before we kind of close out for today, if we were going to say, it's a Thrive interview. So kind of Jessica before, in this struggle and in this journey, before the rebuild, before the around infertility, conceptually, what was life like for you? What did it feel like for you? And what does it feel like now? What makes you feel like you're thriving?
Yeah. I was very emotionally heavy, stressed out, concerned. I feel like I didn't ever have time for myself because I was so focused on doing the things that I was supposed to. Constantly worried what God thought of me, constantly worried what everyone thinks about me. Just when I look at myself back then, I thought I was happy, but I wasn't happy. And on the other side, do I constantly care what people think about me? Yes. But am I working towards it and fixing it? Yes. Does my worth of a human depend on reading my scriptures, saying my prayers, going to church? Absolutely not. It just feels lighter. I feel more at peace. I feel like this burden has been lifted off of me, where I can just do the work that I feel like I was meant to do from forever. And that's self-love and self-care. And I've been giving that space to do that now. And
I
it's
see
the
that.
best.
I see that in you for sure.
Thanks, Margi. You are so cute.
Adorbs.
Adorbs.
Yes. I second that motion. I think John will third it, maybe.
Yeah,
You third that
he'll
motion,
like triple
John.
third.
I quintuple it.
Yeah.
y'all. Thank you, John.
But Jessica is the
Thank-
star
I know.
of the moment.
That's right. Can we just honor you? We honor you.
How
Thank
can
you.
you be bubbly and wise and fun and interesting and vulnerable all at once? How can all of that awesomeness reside in a single human?
Stop it, John.
Seriously.
It is
Yeah.
not contained, John. It oozes. It oozes from.
And the
Jessica.
commenters are also saying this too.
Stop.
Like,
is
we love
felt.
Jessica. Oh my gosh, I love
It is
Jessica. Oh,
felt.
she's so great.
You.
Yes.
It can't be helped.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for trusting us with this part of your story.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Truly. Thank you.
Yes. And thanks, John. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Mormon Stories, Thrive Stories Edition. And we'll see you again soon.